Hey, today I will show you how to change an alternator. That right there is the new alternator. I have already put it in. There are many videos online about how to do this, but this is the only way that worked for me. It sounded hard, but it wasn't that hard at all. It took about an hour, I want to say. Could have been a lot faster if I would just did it the right way the first time. But what I started off with was I tried moving the windshield wiper, but this screw right here was so hard to get out. It was not budging. I didn't know how to do it, so that took me about 15 minutes trying to struggle with it, and it didn't move nowhere, so I didn't do it that way. So what I did is I went on ahead and I took off the serpentine belt that's attached to the alternator. And then I disconnected all of these wires. It got four of these connectors around this tank that I disconnected, and I pulled them to the side. I disconnected the hose, and all the windshield wiper fluid came out. So if you see water coming out, that's supposed to happen. You just got to refill your windshield wiper fluid. And I took out the battery. I removed that out the way, so I can get to the 4 screws that's along the tank for the windshield wiper fluid. When I did that, the 4 screws, I think it's like 8 millimeters. So I took out the 4 screws and I pulled it on out. And when I got to this part right here, the alternator, after I unscrewed here, it's a screw right at the side right there, and it's also a screw at the back that's like hard to get to because it's up against this wall. And it's very hard to reinstall. I'm gonna say that again just in case you didn't hear me. So I took out this screw right here. I took out this screw right here on the side, and I took out the screw on the back. Now the screw on the back is hard to get to because of this wall right here. So what I did is I took off this screw, and I unloosened this screw, and I unloosened this screw so I can pull this back on both of them. I got a clamp. I clamped it right here, and I clamped it forward so the thing can tip forward, and that's how I got to my alternator. And then I took the alternator to the side and I dragged it up through here. It can't drag up high, so you have to drop it down a little low, about right there, and you have to pull it out from the side. And it worked. I didn't put nothing in between the serpentine belt to keep it from falling or nothing. What I did in order to put it back on, I just put the screw back down in there, and then I tilted it, I turned it with the pulley side, and I put it back on that way. One wheel at a time. Now with this alternator that I had, it was kind of off because the connector was usually right here. Now the connector is in the back. So what I did was I made sure I kept the thing tilted so I could put my connector on before I dropped it back in there, because if I would have dropped it back in there, if I would have released this and dropped it back in there, I would never been able to get the connector on. So I had to tilt it forward and make sure that I put the connector on before I dropped it back, because as you can see, now you can't see the connector. The connector is like right here against the wall, so I couldn't get to it. So, and I also couldn't get to the 3rd screw at the back because of the wall that was in the way, so I couldn't put the long screw in. It's about this long, so it's a pretty long screw, so I couldn't get it in. So, but it's still steady and holding up. One day I would try to put the other screw back in there. If I ever see these loosen up, I would keep on checking up on this screw and the other screw on the side, see if it starts to loosen up. But it gives me good power. And the way you can also test if the alternator is working or alternator helps, I didn't do it on purpose, but when I was trying to screw this back in, my battery back in, the wrench I was using touched this and this, and automatically lit a little spark, showed me that I had power going on to it, and I was like, wow, that's cool, that's neat. So that showed me that the alternator was good, alternator was working, because there were 2 different power sources connected by a metal that ignited the spark. Now, when I put it back in, I did it exactly backwards. I put the tank back on first, did the 4 screws. You got a screw up here It got a screw down there on the right, it got a screw down here on the left, and it got a screw over here. You got a screw over there against the wall, right there by the hole. That screw right there. Now, I'm missing 2 screws, I found out, but it still was holding up with only 2 screws. It was holding up with the bottom screw, the side screw, and the right bottom screw. So it was holding up with 3 screws, but I was missing one, so I gotta go get a 8mm to replace that. And I also used this to hold my battery in place because, as you can see, the serpentine belt was giving me a hole, running a hole through the side of my battery. So I used this to connect it to that and put it over here in this hole right here. After I did all that, I released the clutch, the clamps. I released the clamps, and it fell back in space where it needed to be. And I connected this connector back. I connected these 2 connectors back, and I connected that connector back that's over there in the corner. And I pushed this back in place. I put this screw back. I also had to take this off. Be mindful, you had to take this off to move this out the way. But I put this back on, and I screwed it back on. And I clamped back these holes back in place because I had to take them off too. But that's what I did to change my alternator. I also changed my starter down there. As you can see it, it's very bright silver. I changed my starter, it's a new starter. And I have an alternator. But yeah, that's what I did. It very easy, didn't take as long. Never ever put an alternator in a car. This is my first time, and it worked. And it cleared up the codes. I actually started getting more gas mileage, so it helped. It went from, I think, 12 to 19 miles per gallon. So it helped a little bit. I have a little more work to do on this car, but as right now we good. My next thing I will be doing is a wheel hub. I have to do a wheel hub. I'll try to video record that video all the way through while I'm doing it in the process. So make sure you get you some clamps. All the stuff you're gonna need is some clamps. You're gonna need you a 10mm, a 15mm for these screws, a 13mm. It's the 15 and the 13. You're gonna need you a wrench, obviously. You're gonna need a 3/8 to connect to the wheel pulley, so you can pull it backward to take the serpentine belt off. And you're gonna need an 8mm for the bottom screws and a 10mm. And also, if you still have this pole in the way, I believe this is a 15 and a 13. That screws be right here. I have to get some more screws from that. But yeah, it was pretty easy. And make sure when you tilting it forward, don't tilt too forward because it can mess up this pipe right here. It can mess up the front. It can mess up a lot of stuff. So don't tilt it too far. But you'll know when you got it high enough. You'll better reach the back screw. But thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to my video. I will make sure I record a video next time. Like and subscribe. Break Bread ENT.